So this is the animator number 2, and you can see that we're able to get a lot closer to layer 1. And the reason is that this right here will cause continuous rasterization. Otherwise, it's rasterized as when it was imported, and we're really zooming in a lot on a very tiny part. But that's the beauty of vector graphics. If you tell it, no, I want you to go and re-rasterize that, it's going to look sharp and clear even when it's this zoomed in. So what I want to do now is show you how to fix a wobble. So this right here is where you can find the grid and guide option, and this is the proportional grid. You can see this little white area is the point around which it rotates, but it's not right in the middle of the screen. You can grab and move the position just fine. Now the numbers that we're changing are found here under the layer, Transform Properties. So there's a lot of other things here. This is the distance. It's at 2,500 pixels away from the 0 point. But right here is the anchor point. So if we were to move this, you can see that it looks like this has been moved, but actually we've changed where the center is. I'm going to Control-Z undo that and go and look at the next layer. So if I move forward in time, you can see that now I can see layer 2. Now layer 2, let me turn off layer 1, is not centered. So we're going to need to adjust that. Now it's a little hard if those arrows are not pointed straight up and down, and by the time I get there, they're not there. So rather than mess around with what the rotation is and everything, although I could delete that keyframe fairly easily, let's try that. I'm going to do R for rotation, and you can see that at this point there are just 2 keyframes, but at this point it's at 34 degrees. I'm going to temporarily rotate it, and I'm going to get rid of that keyframe when I'm done. This is going to make centering this a lot easier. Let me go back to the regular Transform Properties by closing it and opening it up again. And I'm going to change the anchor point by dragging on these numbers. So I'm going to not need to move it too far left and right, but I do need to move it up and down a little bit. Now with this one, its position was already centered there. If we needed to move it, we could, but this way, when this one is there, let me close it and turn on layer 1, we've got a lot less wobble going on there. It's not perfect, but it's certainly going to help. Let's take a look at those keyframes. Remember, I can press the U key. You can see that rotation. I'm going to delete that. So it's still going to rotate smoothly from beginning to end. I'm going to do one more here, the green one. Turning off these 2 layers, opening up layer 3, and looking at the Transform Properties. I can see that this is not right in the middle of the ring. I can go ahead and maybe even scale it down temporarily. Control-Z, so it's at 184%. I'm going to scale it down temporarily so that I can see that, nope, I'm not centered. I can do the rotation, Z rotation. Now it's going to be a little easier to move the anchor point so that it's looking a little better. It's already in the center. I'm going to put the scale back to 184% and get rid of this keyframe right here. And now those inner 3, which were causing some difficulty looking so wobbly, are not going to be so bad. Much better. Now what you'll notice here is that when I'm zoomed out all the way, this is not, I'm on fit, but it's not showing the whole circle. That's okay because we're filling in these pixels and it still looks pretty nice. One of the things you might notice though is that this has some effects on it. Let me show you where those effects are. By opening layer 6, you can see something called layer styles. Layer styles can be opened, and you can see that I have an inner glow and a bevel and emboss. If you don't want those, you can just turn them off, but you can also make adjustments to them. For example, the inner glow color right now is a yellow. If you change that to something else, it's going to really change the character of that. The bevel and emboss, you could also change the amount, just depending on how thick your brush strokes are. Let me go into 100% and use my grabby hand, space bar, to go over here and take a close look. Because this is on, it's going to sharpen that up for me here in just a moment. Let me make sure it's on, yes. It's at 1/4 resolution. Got to make sure it's on full for that to happen. It's doing some calculation, and there you go. So that's an inner glow and a bevel and emboss that's been applied to layer 6. You can get rid of it or change it as you like. Okay, let's talk about exporting. First of all, let me put this back on fit. You want to make sure that everything is looping nicely, goes back to there. Looks pretty good. We're not just going to do a file export. We're actually going to collect these files up so that we can create one single very nice package that has the Illustrator file and the After Effects project. I'll show you that in just a moment in part 2.